Hey, thanks for tuning into the show. And also, make sure with so much content whizzing around out there, there's only one storytelling platform that helps you keep calm and stay informed and inspired: Flipboard. Now, what is Flipboard, you ask? Flipboard curates the world's stories so you can be smarter in your work, life, and play. Choose from thousands of topics to personalize Flipboard and get the latest stories from the best publishers and experts delivered to you 24/7. Much like David's life and observation, you're definitely going to want to stay informed, so access, utilize, and work with Flipboard. Get started now at flipboard.com. Welcome to David's Life and Observation with your host, David Welch. Have you ever started a podcast? Have you ever thought about starting a podcast? Have you ever tried to get a show off the ground? Are you wondering how to get your podcast on Apple, Spotify, and other places where you could possibly listen and perpetuate your message? Well, give Anchor a shot. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, distributing, and monetizing your podcast. And best of all, it's 100% free. It's 100% your podcast and ridiculously easy to use. Thank you for listening to David's Life and Observation. Please keep the show going. Love you. Welcome to David's Life and Observation with your host, David Welch. Today's show is a Happy Easter show. Yes, Happy Easter to everyone out there on the wire, listening, enjoying the podcast, and enjoying your day. But the reason for my show today is a twofold issue that I've been seeing, dealing with, have dealt with, and quite frankly just in awe that it's not been tackled on a much larger scale. And I'm talking about poverty, homelessness, and the sheer disregard of the working class and the indigent. Now, a lot of people could say, oh, well, there's social programs to make up for the lack of resources. Well, no. Homelessness is a real issue. People are becoming more and more homeless as time goes on. Now, there are people that choose to be homeless. I'm not denying that fact. Some people love the scruff life. Some people love the ability to be a super tramp and go anywhere they want to, uninhibited, and sleep anywhere and enjoy life. Some people absolutely adore that lifestyle. But then there are some families, and families end up getting broken up because of this. And here's what I mean. Let's say you're a young couple, you're homeless, you got your young child with you, you're in Phoenix, you're sleeping out of your car, and somebody happens to just call you in. They say, oh, there's this homeless family, they're sleeping in the car, somebody better come take care of that baby. Now, mind you, the baby's probably healthy, happy with the parents, still eating well, sheltered because they're living out of their vehicle. But for some people, that's just not enough. The kids got to be in a solid residence with a solid home structure, which is all what we designed to do. But to deny young parents their kid because of that, I think is wrong. What I think should happen is an entity or a series of resources can put them in a location that allows them to build from there. Now, the current system of family shelters in Phoenix is just atrocious. It's not very well constructed. It's not very well built. Neither are regular shelters because they reach capacity really quick, which leaves a lot of people on the street. Now, the upside of Phoenix is it's warm enough that at night you could literally sleep on the street. The problem is it's too fucking hot during the summer for anyone to get a decent night's sleep
on the street. And that's adult, kid, doesn't matter. It's just too damn hot. It's like 90s and miserable. And it sucks to try and sleep in Phoenix at night. Especially if you're in a vehicle. It's like it's its own little sauna. Even if you're sleeping on top of your motherfucking vehicle, it's just too damn hot. Now, anyways, there is an entity that should be, or a group of entities, and finding the logistics to do this, it really isn't hard, especially when you got people who are trying to get certified, trying to get licensed, and I'm talking counselors, nurses, doctors, lawyers, people that are fresh onto the market when it comes to jobs like that should have a opportunity to get practice, more time on the job, etc., in an environment where they're helping that community specifically, the homeless, the indigent, and especially with mental health counselors. A lot of people on the street deal with mental health problems, veterans, people who just deal with mental health in general. You know, they're stuck and they're not getting out of that circumstance. I think I heard on Joe Rogan's podcast with Russell Brand that, you know, it's the numbers are staggering. They're in the millions, like 300 something million. And it's absurd that we have this issue in this country, the wealthiest country in the world apparently. And this is a running issue, especially when you got assholes like the CEO of Chase Bank who can't even pay his people a living wage when he's making a salary of $32 million. How gross is that? How obtuse, how gross, how disgusting. Now, CEOs should absolutely be compensated. No doubt about that. And if it's your fucking company, then yeah, you should definitely be compensated very well. But what's too damn well? What's too damn bougie? 32 million, really? 32 million a year salary? Not to mention whatever the hell he makes on investments. ROIs. I mean, there are tellers who work for Chase who make $16 an hour as a teller, handling people's money. Now you're saying, oh, all that person does is handle a register and yada, yada, yada. They shouldn't get paid much. Well, why? If you're working 40 plus hours a week, why are you not? Why is it in people's heads that they're not allotted a living wage? I don't care if you work at fucking McDonald's, Fry's, or Walmart, or whatever have you. If you're busting your ass 40 plus hours a week, you should be able to live and take care of at least one other person, much less a family. There are people that are superhumans working, 80 plus hours a week in multiple jobs with side hustles, and they're constantly on the go, and they're taking care of just themselves in a lot of cases. Could you imagine doing that for a family of 4, family of 5, family of 6, whatever the hell size your family is? And a lot of people are going to fucking park that conversation and be like, well, you should really be financially established before you bring a family. No, motherfuckers. I'm trying to tell you, it's unrealistic. Unfucking realistic to put that on somebody. To say you have to wait until you're totally financially secure before starting a family. Here's the reason why it's unrealistic. Motherfucker, you can lose your job, lose your ability to do your job at any fucking moment. You could lose a limb, you could have a muscular problem, you can have a medical issue, you can have a fuck it all issue, you could have a mental health breakdown, you could get laid off. There are so many circumstances that can fuck off your middle class mentality of, oh, well, you should really you get a degree and get a job that's worth its salt. That doesn't hold water anymore. There are people with certifications and licensures, with plumbing and, blue collar jobs, electricians, things like that, construction managers, things like, people who do architecture, like even just regular construction workers. If you have a specialty like carpentry, things like that, you can make a lot of money. You can make a fuck ton of money because those are skill sets that are still needed, especially if you do, tile work, things like that. All of it's tough fucking work. It really is. And if your skill set is that, sorry, don't get it fucking twisted that you're not valuable and that you're the person that's not being represented with what I'm talking about, because you absolutely are. But circumstances, medical issues, and life can mitigate or even totally remove you from an industry, not on your own volition. You see what I'm saying? So, out of the realm of your own volition, you can be removed from an industry that you're being paid very well in, and then therefore you're put in a position where you're not eligible, you're not even able, in some instances, to make that kind of money and sustain the livelihood you did have. So I've seen people, couples, individuals go from living in, $500,000 homes to apartments, to rented out, storage spaces. I mean, you name it. I've seen it. Like I've seen the downsizes of the century. I've also seen the upsizes of the century as well. Now, we live in a fucking hard market. Whereas if you don't have a phone, vehicle, gas to get somewhere, access to good clothing, things like that, it's hard to get and sustain a job. Even if it's a fucking job at McDonald's, hard to maintain because you're in a situation that doesn't allot you the ability to be consistent. Or at least, to be at the top of your game all the time. Not to even mention the social factors. But I'm also talking about the pay. Like when gas is $4 a gallon in California, $3 a gallon in Arizona, $2.50 in Texas, whatever the gas is where you are, it's fucking high right now. The cost of living right now, just a 2-bedroom apartment in a lot of places is $1,600 a month. A 1-bedroom could be $1,600 a month if you're living in California, or even more. So, a lot of families are closing ranks, which is good. But at the same time, it's putting you at a detriment. And, you could strive and toil and work hard as fuck and having multiple side hustles, and you still may not be in what people's eyes are, able to start a family. Even if you have the best girl in the world or the best dude in the world who backs you 100%, makes as much as you, still may not be able to, in other people's eyes, have enough money to generate a family. Because you got to look at all the things you pay for, place, your rent, your utilities, your car note if you have one, food money, travel to and from money, and you're looking at people. Some people live, in excess and they have availability to have everything. That's not everybody's case. There are people that have a very, very thin tether to a higher outlook, or no tether at all. I mean, they're on the streets. They have no resources. They have a phone that doesn't work because, or they have a phone that they have to have absolute internet connection to, but they can't stay somewhere consistently because the business doesn't want them there. So, I mean, you're running people into the ground. We're painting people in a corner, and then we have laws. Here's where the law fucks up. Here's where society fucks up. society and large communities demonize poverty. They're being constantly pursued by the police, constantly put in handcuffs because they have to pee out in public or they have to ask and beg for change. And they're at a business and they're, just being ran up on by the business employees. They're being, put in jail. They're yielding millions of dollars in fines that they'll never be able to pay. So essentially, we're creating a debtor's prison, which people end up in, and then they find comfort in the system, and then we're still paying for them regardless. So we have to reconstruct our thinking on poverty. And when you have assholes like the CEO of JP Morgan Chase making $32 million a year salary, I mean, you could pay that motherfucker $15 million a year, reinvest $15 million into your own company, into paying your lowest bottom percentage of your employees $1 more, and you set them up for an advantage. A lot of people, again, will attack my thinking on this and be like, oh no, bootstraps. Well, motherfucker, if you don't have shoelaces, or you don't have the opportunity. Now, I'm not saying people can't create the opportunity. If you're a critical thinking person, you're logical, you have discipline, you have a lot of people kind of in your pocket or in your corner, yes, you can circumvent your circumstances. However, not everybody's in that situation to do so. I mean, you have people that literally just trying to live, and they have they live at a deficit. Their credit cards are always maxed. They're trying to find new ways to make income, and then the new ways they make income don't necessarily align with the law. You know what I mean? Like, even if you're doing your own business from your home, if you get caught up doing the wrong thing, or maybe, not having a business license or whatever, and they shut you down, bam, they just ended your source of income. Or you're selling weed on the side, or, you're some other type of drug dealer, because that's where the money's at, it's where it's lucrative. And a lot of people will be like, well, those people are just criminals and blah, blah, blah. No, they're not. They're people put in a situation where that's where the money is and that's where their skill set is. And it's a shame in this country that with the poverty level so high, with people in such a state of duress that they cannot see the upward mobility aspect, or they cannot discern how to help themselves climb that ladder, especially if they have a family. Because once they have a family and they fall off that I have money pedestal, and they find themselves in a little bit of a spot, the state, whatever state they're in, will come in and seize their children and then put them in a foster system that's no better. In fact, if you were to keep those families together and give them money that they would give to foster parents to those parents would be able to sustain those children. Isn't that so fucking asinine that the state's willing to give money to a person who already has resources to take care of kids, but not give anything to, in fact, oftentimes jail or incarcerate parents that don't have the resources to take care of their kids in the best way possible? And since when did it become the duty of the state to come in and rip children out of homes? And this is a little bit off topic, but when did it become the duty of the state to rip children out of homes that they're essentially thriving and being okay in? If a kid's healthy, happy, etc., the state should have no business coming in and taking the kids out of there unless there's clear signs of abuse. And then there needs to be a crackdown. And I'm going to fucking scream this from the rooftops. There needs to be a savage penalty for filing false reports. Has to be. Because if the allegations that you levy against someone are unfounded and not true, then that person should not be dragged to the legal system. Your ass should. And I say this in all aspects of law enforcement. I say in all aspects of the criminal justice system. If you levy a complaint against someone or assert that they've committed a crime and there's no proof, there's nothing that says that they've ever committed a crime, there's nothing that shows that they have, the person making that allegation should be fucking penalized. They should be fucking put in handcuffs and thrown in a fucking cage. Because the person whose life you're trying to ruin, and this happens all the time, in fact, the whole family court system lives on this kind of nonsense where people constantly try to get each other in jail for dumb shit that doesn't even take place, but they're trying to do it anyway. It's wrong. It's a wrong system. Now, going back to systems that fail, not just the criminal justice system, but the system of capitalism, the way it's constructed right now, with the dependency on people's charity to assist with social programs, is not a model that works consistently, and it's not a model that provides enough resources to combat the issue of homelessness and poverty. Now, there are companies that try to help. There are people that try to really make a go at handling homelessness and poverty by creating like the tiny homes, by setting up a outdoor food kitchen, by handing food to the homeless. When you have law enforcement that comes in and you have people arrested for being good people and helping their homeless community, that is inherently wrong. That smacks of fascism and oppression. Because those people aren't soliciting, they're not a business. They are people helping people. When you have the guy who is giving free haircuts to the homeless, being threatened with losing licensure and being threatened with put in handcuffs because he's giving free haircuts to the homeless, that is wrong. And somewhere, some corporate asshole in a suit and tie thought that was a good idea to build more revenue. Because these motherfuckers, there are some people who get paid on people's misery. And it's horrible. And then the people that subject people to that misery are left to do that for a long period of time. Honestly, criminals are not around every corner just plotting to just commit random acts of violence, murder, and they're just horrible human beings, and yada yada. You can paint that picture all day you want, and it's not true. A lot of people are people put in desperate situations, and they have to have a come up. They have, in their minds, like how many times have we seen it, where guys rob a convenience store, and you turn around, they find out they got a kid at home, they have no job, they're trying to feed their family, and yeah, what they did is wrong. Did they seek the proper resources? No. But you're really going to fucking, especially if they do it unarmed and they lie about having a weapon. Or if they slide a note to a teller. Now, if a bitch is just being greedy and they refuse to work and they refuse to do, normal shit to try and circumvent their system, their own problem, then yeah, they should be incarcerated for a while. But I'm not talking, like, especially if it's attempted robbery. If you attempt the robbery and you're unfucking successful, or you attempt to steal from somebody and you're unfucking successful. Now, I hate thieves. I abhor thieves. I really do. I don't like them. I don't like being stolen from. Nobody does. Nobody likes having their hard work fucking trampled by somebody who just wants that easy payday. Fuck that person. But don't fuck that person in the sense that they have to spend years and years and years and years in jail. Because that person, if they're not being greedy, was put in a situation to balance the scale. All people are trying to do is balance the scale of comfortability. Now, if you're an asshole, you balance the scale and try and be in excess, which a lot of people will do. A lot of people will take advantage of the system. They will, and it's because of our nature. We've learned that you have to do whatever it is you have to do to get ahead and come out on top. Even if it's just for a microsecond in time, you take advantage of it. Everybody does it. I'm telling you, if you don't do it in some sort of way, you're wrong. And there's a system in place trying to mitigate that, even with SSDI and veterans disability. I'm sure it's already in existence. I'm sure it already happens. But I'm also putting it out there because it's very important to talk about. The Trump administration, and it's not just the Trump administration, it's probably multiple administrations have been coming up with this. They're trying to find a way to cut the fat at the lower end, and that lower end being disabled veterans and people on Social Security disability. And there is an all-out war on people at the lower end who may have a disability or who probably do have a disability. They show the signs of the disability. They have it logged in their medical record as a disability. But there's a system that is going to allow these non-medical professionals to look at someone's social media and then make that snap decision to deny someone their benefits based on their non-medical recommendation that person's fine. So let's say you have hearing loss and they show you at a concert in your social media. Do I lose my benefit of having hearing loss compensation? If I have tinnitus, do I lose the ability to have the hearing loss or the tinnitus compensation? Just because I choose to go to a concert and enjoy music. Now, not taking into the fact that maybe I'm sitting all the fuck way in the back, or, the decibel level or the amplitude isn't enough to severely harm your eardrum. Or, if my hearing aid's not turned down during the concert, but I'm still able to enjoy the beats, the rhythm, and the music. Fuck all that variables in consideration. They want non-medical professionals to say, you know what? Nope, that person's getting their money yanked because we see them at a concert. Now, that's just a mild version of what they're probably going to do. Like, let's say somebody is wheelchair bound most of the time, but then they see that person doing like CrossFit, or they're doing yoga, or they're doing something, and they scour somebody's social media page and find that, oh, well, their legs appear fine. Well, it could be part of their rehabilitation process for their lack of muscle, or for their sedentaryism, or for their whatever. Now, I'm not saying being sedentary and fat and overweight is reason to have disability. You could have multiple other ailments. But what I'm saying is that mechanism that's in place is going to scour your social media to help deny you your benefits. That's coming down the pipeline. There is literally people trying to pass that legislation. Literally bureaucrats trying to attack people at the bottom. Now, what if just thinking outside the box about our economic deficit problem with the lower end of humanity. What the fuck if we decided to tap into our gross military spending money? Now, what baffles the fuck out of my mind is that there's still assholes in the military who force lower enlisted to utilize their own resources, their own paycheck money that helps feed them and their families, to get around base, a base like Fort Hood. Fort Hood's a prime example of what I'm talking about. You have upper enlisted who do pretty well, who make pretty decent amount of money, who live okay, who force E1s, E2s, E3s, E4s with families or without families, doesn't matter, to be able to get anywhere on base at the drop of a hat, and force them to use Uber, force them to use the fuck out of one person's car and carpool, when literally the government's paying for duty vehicles or government vehicles to do that very thing. It's units choosing not to use those. It's units choosing to only use them for the upper enlisted or even the officers. There is serious wrong and serious misallocation of funds going on Fort Hood. Fort Hood is probably the worst example of a military installation that I've ever seen in my life. People, soldiers, people who used to love their career will go to Fort Hood and kill themselves. Hundreds of people in the last couple of years have died on Fort Hood. Shootings happen on Fort Hood. There are fucking reasons why shootings happen on Fort Hood. It has nothing to do with religious ideology. Has nothing to do with, oh, well, that person was just off their rocker. No, motherfuckers. It has to deal with the leadership at Fort Hood being toxic as fuck, and their horrible way of threatening people's lives and threatening their career. I've experienced it with my family. My wife was horribly persecuted by a butthurt commander. I will digress into that later. Anyways, even the lower end of the military gets fucking shafted on, while the military spends an ugly amount of money on a fucking hammer, on fucking tools, on contracting with... You know what's super ironic about the military? Super stupid, anyway. Is that the military contracts with people who will do the same job the military members are paid to do, but at a higher rate. You heard it right, yes. The same. So when it comes to people doing like electrical work or things like that, the military trains people to do that. The military trains people to be more than just killers. They train them to be mechanics, etc., etc., etc. But they will bring in civilian contractors to do just something stupid as bringing food onto a ship. They will bring in civilian contractors, pay them more than they would pay the service member to do the same job, and not use the service members to just do it. We have We had people who would go to they would save the ship millions of dollars by going to Home Depot and finding the exact same tool or part and come back to the ship and utilize that. Save the Navy some money. Save the service some money. Because that same part in the regular catalog is $50 to $70 more than what you would get at Home Depot. Or there's an alternative tool. And you know what's sick too is that the military does not provide individuals with their own tools. They get assigned to the ship. My brother's a machinist, mate. He's labeled all of his tools. He's got his tool backpack. And he utilizes his own tools to get jobs done at a very high capacity, high rate. Because he knows that those tools are needed. He knows that they may not be readily available if they're being outsourced by multiple people who need those tools throughout the ship. So he has his own tools, but he shouldn't have to buy his own fucking tools to do the work necessary for his job. They should be provided by your workplace. If your workplace is not providing you the proper tools, the proper equipment to do your job effectively, efficiently, safely, and legally, then they're in the wrong all fucking day. They're just wrong. They are. Anyways, I'm gonna go with the simple fact that yes, the military budget should be reduced. A chunk should be cut, and the chunk that should be cut is what's being given to Boeing and what is that other obtuse motherfucking, trying to think of it, Raytheon and all these other motherfucking companies who will contract with the military and then their CEOs make $100 million a year. That's where the bulk of that money goes that we contract with these companies, is the CEOs and the administration is taking a large money that would go into research, that would go into testing and paying people to increase our military abilities and capabilities, and actually funneling it to the leadership and the higher echelon. Now, you could call bullshit on that and say, no, where's your proof? Da, da, da. Look at, I'll pull it up right now. What is the CEO of Raytheon's salary? CEO of Raytheon. Thomas Kennedy's salary. Let's look at this motherfucker's salary. Bam. The chief executive officer, Thomas Kennedy, received $20.4 million in total compensation last year, a 49% jump from 2014. The head of Waltham-based defense contracting giant took home $1.2 million in salary and $8.1 million in stock awards, according to the annual proxy filing with securities regulators. Let's see. Lockheed Martin. How much is the CEO? That's the next little thing on here. So the CEO of Lockheed Martin, Marilyn Houston, as a salary. Come on. Anyways. But I'm sure there's people in that company. Like, let's take Amazon, for instance. Bezos. That dude's worth billions, not millions, billions of dollars. But he has employees that make, what, $15 an hour? At $15 an hour, you can't even rent an apartment in Phoenix at $15 an hour. Cannot do it. Not be able to rent and, like, I don't know, sustain themselves. And then just to rent, like, renters want you to make sometimes 2.5 to 3.5 times what the rent amount is, just so that they'll rent to you. So you have renters and homes and people that are just really setting other motherfuckers up for failure when they can't even rent with the job that they have. I mean, if you're already in a spot, then I guess you're good, but I mean, come on. I mean, it's a challenge. It is a tough nut to try and make it as a poor person, much less a impoverished and an indigent person. Why is it that we, in the richest country in the world, that we have areas that look like third world countries? I'll never understand it. Why is that a thing? Yes, you have the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Yes, you have charitable organizations that are doing great work all over the fucking place. But the balance is not enough. Honestly, the balance is not enough. And there's an upper tier. Let's just take Kylie Jenner, for example. I think youngest billionaire ever, or I mean, just she's set an incredible achievement. I can't remember what it is exactly, but she's essentially a billionaire, and she does it through her own hard work. Grant you, I applaud that. She has beauty. She has a business mindset. She has a lot of advantages and resources that she capitalized on. She could have easily done nothing and still been fine. You know, she could have lived a very happy existence having not done a fucking thing, right? But she took advantage of her resources and built a little empire for herself. But let me ask you this, and I'm pretty sure she has disclosed charity filings, whatever she donates to charity. And even if it's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars amount, or even $500,000, $500,000 will get spread through a charity like wildfire and disappear in the ranks really quick if you have a lot of people being helped by this charity. If you have a lot of needy, situational people, I would just love to see what her charity filings are and what she donates, if she even donates. She may not even know how much she donates because she has like an accounts manager that handles what she donates and what she does with her time and money. That I'll never know. But why these people who make, like, let's say the Waltons. The Waltons are still making a fuck ton of money on people working for them and dying, the death tax that's being levied for organizational profit. And if you haven't heard of it, here's what happens. And the companies that you work for will take an insurance policy out on you. for $500,000 or $250,000. And when you die and you work for them, they will be compensated for the loss of you as the worker. Do they give any money to your family? Fuck no. They won't do it. But they will, of course, reap the benefit of your death while you're working for them, which is amazing. And to me, it would seem like that would be a conflict of interest. Like, I don't know. It'd be like a police department. And this is just an example. I'm not saying that this happens. But let's take a job that has like a high risk of someone dying. Like, you know, even police officers, firefighters, whatever have you. Let's say the state or the city or whatever took an insurance policy out on that firefighter who happens to die, and then they yield all the money for that, but then don't help the family, don't compensate the family, and they're just like, nah, you lost your breadwinner, but sorry, we're going to go ahead and pocket $500,000 or $250,000 of an insurance policy on your dead spouse or father or daughter or mother or whatever have you. People would be outraged. People should be outraged. And there is a fuck ton of companies that do that. Literally a gross majority of the top level companies do this. Home Depot, Chase, Target, Walmart, a lot of the big box stores. Amazon does this. Yeah, it's called the death tax. Essentially, like, if you die and you happen to work at these organizations, they will be compensated for your death. And they will not spend a fucking dime on your family or your funeral cost or nothing. They don't give a fuck. And that right there is something that should be legislated. If a company can take an insurance policy out on you, they should be able to or forced to break off a small piece. I don't care if it's 10 G's, 15 G's, 5 G's, 2,000 motherfucking dollars. That should go towards the family to help offset the cost for burial services. I see it all the time. Now, some of it's a scam, but some of it's not, where people legitimately will stand out on the side of the road to get money to help funeral costs for their grandmother, for their mom, their dad, their brother, their sister, their kid, whatever it is, whoever it is you're trying to have a funeral for. Now, for me, I mean, I just hope they take me out to the woods, bury me, and just say, call it a day. You know, bury me near a copse of trees. You know, let my body decay, get into the roots, and help that tree and system. I mean, what I would love, honestly, is to be that whole die and then, you know, have a tree grown, you know, from you, essentially, out of your nutrients. I would love that. Is it affordable? Probably fucking not. Is cremation more likely and it's super fucking cheap? Yeah. You can burn me. And then, you know, throw my ashes somewhere cool. I honestly, you know, if you want to use me as a fucking human display and my bones survive until the end of time, fan-fucking-tastic. Great. Hey, this is a modern look at, you know, the progression of man. This is number, 5 on the evolution scale. Right? I mean, come on. But we have so many shitty things in place. Like, let's take a look at hospitals. Hospitals do this. The people who take the Hippocratic Oath to do no harm, they will leave a motherfucker out in the cold in nothing but a fucking hospital gown. And it's called patient dumping. They even have a name for it. It's called patient dumping. That's how much they hate the poor and indigent. Companies hate people that don't have insurance. Companies hate people that they're not going to get any money from, that are a draw on their resources. So they will literally fucking dump you on the street. They will drive up in a van, throw your ass out of the vehicle, and you'd be going right back because you still need medical care, or you die on the street. Honestly, if that happens, and people are not like storming the Bastille or storming the hospital and I'm not going to say lynching. I'm going to say hanging the fuck out of the hospital doctors and shit that allowed that to happen, then that's what's wrong with society right now. There's an all-out war on homelessness, all-out war on indigency. And it's the proof is in the pudding, people. There's legislation, there are policies, there are people's mentality towards poverty, towards indigency. There are third world country looking areas in our own country. And then people wonder why there are crazy crimes that are committed in this country by people who seemingly lose their shit because, and then that's the whole thing, is nobody asks why. Well, they do ask why, and they don't like the answer they get. They don't like to hear that person was fucked from the beginning. They grew up in an area that was just super shitty, super against them. They were raped by their uncle. They're in the system. You know, they're in and out of jail because they can't find work. Once they're in the system, they have they're an ex-con. They can barely work anyway. They can barely get, and then they're constantly being fined to death and pursued by the legal system. So, is it any wonder that people get out of that situation through more crime, or they get out of that situation through violence, and it leads to a very violent death? It's very circular. It's very cyclical. It's a part of the maniacal attack on poverty. In fact, we have jails and prisons packed full to the brim with human bodies, with chattel, with free slaves, or very, very reduced cost slaves. And it's disgusting. We live in a very disgusting time. We live in a great time technologically. We live in a great time with some of the resources that are available to people. But we also live in a very ugly time. The future, I'd say a couple 100 years, or 100 years even down the road, maybe even 50 years down the road, they're going to look back at us and our time in one of two ways. One of the ways they're going to look back at us is they were cowards. They're going to look back and say they were cowards to not fix the problems that are persisting in the society, in the world, right now. Cowards. Or they're going to look back at us and say, you know what? They were barbarians. They just didn't have the emotional intelligence and mental capacity to right the wrongs that are in their society, to fix obvious problems in their social constructs. We have the capacity as human beings to extend our love so far outward that we all rise together, that we all move together and transition to a better state of consciousness as a team. My son just got up. It's Easter. I'm going to help him out. Please tune in to David's Life and Observation next week. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, send me an email, dwelch9627@gmail.com. This is David, signing out.